There's a skill that cannot be automated, not because AI isn't powerful enough yet, not because it requires a human body, or a physical presence, or something that requires warmth to deliver, but because of what the skill actually is, because of where it lives and how it works. Most experienced professionals have been building it for years, without knowing it had a name, without knowing it was the thing. And almost no one covering the AI and careers conversation has identified it correctly. That's what this video is about, not a reassurance, not a list of soft skills AI hasn't learned yet. A real framework, specific enough to recognize in your own work, and durable enough to hold up when AI gets better. By the end of this, you'll know what the skill is, why it compounds over time instead of eroding, and what it looks like in the actual work you do on a Tuesday morning. Here's what's actually happening when someone in your position watches an AI demonstration and feels that particular kind of unease. It's not really about the job, or it's not only about the job. The job fear is real, but underneath it, there's a quieter question that most people haven't fully articulated to themselves. And it sounds something like, if a tool can do what I spent years learning to do, what am I actually worth? That question is not irrational. It's actually the more important question. And the reason it keeps generating anxiety, even after you've watched the videos and read the frameworks and told yourself you'll be fine, is that almost no one is answering it directly. They're answering a different question. They're answering, will professionals still have jobs? And the answer to that question is usually yes. Probably in some form, with caveats. Which is not the same as answering, what specifically makes me worth more than the tool? That distinction matters, because one of those answers lets you sleep at night, and the other one gives you something to build. This channel exists for people who want the second answer, not reassurance, a real framework. So let's start with why every answer you've probably already heard is incomplete, and what the complete version actually looks like. The standard answer is some version of this. Humans bring soft skills, emotional intelligence, creativity, and ethical judgment that I can't replicate, and that answer is not wrong. It's just not durable enough to hold its weight anymore. Because if you follow the actual trajectory of AI development, not the hype, the actual capability curve, AI is advancing into all of those domains. It is getting better at tone, better at context sensitivity, better at generating outputs that feel emotionally attuned, better at producing work that looks creative. And the professionals paying close attention, the ones who didn't stop at soft skills will save us, are starting to feel the ground shift under that answer too. If that's been a private doubt, if you've heard the human judgment and creativity answer and felt it was real but somehow not enough, the doubt is well placed. Not because those things don't matter, because that answer describes a category without identifying the mechanism. It says what, not why. And the why is everything, because why tells you whether the advantage compounds or erodes. Here's the distinction that changes the analysis. AI is extraordinary at producing outputs. It is not capable, structurally, not just currently, of knowing whether a specific output is right for a specific situation. Not right in general. Right for this client, this relationship, this organization, this moment, this set of stakes that exist in a context the AI did not live through. That distinction sounds subtle. It isn't. It's the entire thing. And understanding it precisely is what leads to the skill this video is actually about. Now let's talk about what that skill actually is, and why it changes everything about how you think about your professional future. The skill is called contextual judgment, and it's worth defining it carefully, because the word judgment gets used loosely enough that it stops meaning anything specific. Contextual judgment is the ability to evaluate output, any output, yours or a tool's, against the real stakes, history, relationships, and professional standards of a specific situation. Not, is this good writing, but, is this the right message for this client, given what happened last quarter, given how this relationship has been built, given what will actually move them and what will close a door. Not, is this analysis technically correct, but is this the version of the analysis that this leadership team will actually act on, given how they make decisions, what they trust, and where they're likely to push back? That kind of evaluation requires something AI does not have and cannot have. It requires the accumulated professional experience of someone who has been in rooms where decisions like this one were made and watched what happened. Who has seen the version that worked and the version that didn't? Who carries in their professional memory a calibration that was built through years of getting it wrong, adjusting, and getting it less wrong. That calibration, that internal standard of what good actually looks like in your specific field and your specific context, is not a soft skill. It is a precise, learnable, developable capability. And here is why it doesn't erode. As AI gets better, it compounds. The more AI produces, the more valuable the person who can evaluate what AI produces, because the output volume is increasing faster than the evaluation capacity. Every organization that deploys AI creates an immediate and growing need for people who can look at the output and say, with professional authority, this is the version that works. And here's why. That authority is not generic. It's profession-specific. It's built from years of work in a specific domain. And here is the reframe, not the reassuring version, the honest one. Your expertise is not what AI replaced. It is what I cannot work without. The craft you built, the years of refinement, the professional judgment you developed by doing this work badly, and then less badly, and then, well, that is the training data for the one skill that cannot be replicated. Because it was trained on the specific, irreplaceable, non-transferable experience of being you in your field. That's not a consolation prize. That's a mechanism. Your expertise is the foundation, not the problem. That's what that phrase actually means. If this reframe landed and you want a structured path for building contextual judgment deliberately, not just understanding it but actively developing it into a professional advantage, there's a resource in the description built exactly for that. It's a system for professionals who are ready to stop being defensive about their expertise and start building the specific identity that makes AI fluency an amplifier rather than a threat. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. So what does this actually look like when you're sitting at your desk on a Tuesday morning? Let me walk you through 3 real scenarios. Here's what contextual judgment looks like on a Tuesday morning in 3 different roles. Because a framework that doesn't land in the actual work isn't a framework, it's a thought experiment. First scenario, a marketing or communications professional. I can generate a campaign message in 40 seconds. It can produce 10 variations. It can optimize for engagement based on pattern data. What it cannot do is know that this particular client had a public crisis 8 months ago that makes 2 of those 10 variations land exactly wrong. What it cannot do is recognize that the tone that tests well in general is the tone that will read as performative to this specific audience at this specific moment. The professional who brings contextual judgment doesn't just use the tool. They are the quality gate. They know what good looks like for this client, this brief, this relationship, and that knowledge is not in any data set. Second scenario, an analyst or financial professional. AI can model the numbers. It can surface patterns, generate projections, flag anomalies faster than any human working alone. What it cannot do is know that the CFO who will read this report trusts one type of framing and is allergic to another. What it cannot do is recognize that the projection that's technically accurate is also the one that will be read as overly conservative and shelved, while a different presentation of the same data would actually get acted on. The professional who understands this doesn't just verify the output, they translate it into something that functions in the real room it was made for. Third scenario, a project manager or operations professional. I can generate a timeline. It can identify resource conflicts, draft communications, produce status reports. What it cannot do is know that the dependency it flagged as low risk is actually the one that will break because of a relationship issue between 2 team leads that has never been documented anywhere. What it cannot do is weigh the official timeline against the unofficial one, the one that exists in the actual human system, not the project management software. In every one of these cases, the professional isn't competing with the tool. They're the reason the tool produces something worth using. Now, the objection that belongs here is the honest one. This sounds real for now, but AI is getting better. Won't it eventually learn the context too? The honest answer. In some narrow ways, yes. In the ways that matter most. Structurally, no, because the context that produces irreplaceable judgment isn't stored in documents or data. It lives in professional relationships, institutional memory, the accumulated texture of years inside a specific field. I can approximate context. It cannot accumulate it. And the professional who keeps building contextual judgment keeps pulling further ahead, not because AI stops improving, but because the professional standard for evaluation improves alongside it. That's what compounding means in this context. The tool gets better. The professional who knows what good looks like gets more valuable. not less. If you want the structured system for building this deliberately, the resource is in the description and the pinned comment. It's the place to go if what landed here is something you want to turn into an actual professional advantage. Not just a reframe. What does contextual judgment look like in your specific role? And when did you last use it in a way that a tool couldn't have? There's a version of the next few years where you spend them managing the anxiety, watching the announcements, updating your sense of threat every few months when the next capability lands, staying current enough to feel slightly less behind. That version is exhausting, and it doesn't end. And there's a version where you understood, at some specific point, what the actual skill was, where you stopped trying to compete with the tools and started doing the thing the tools cannot do, bringing the professional judgment that makes the output mean something in a real situation, where you recognize that your years in your field weren't a liability waiting to be obsolete. They were the foundation of the one capability that compounds. The professionals in your field who will look back on this period as the moment they built something, rather than the moment something was done to them, are not people with less to lose. They're not people who felt less threatened. They're people who found the real mechanism and decided to develop it with intention. Not because the fear disappeared, because the path forward became more real than the threat. A year from now, there will be professionals in your field who went through this transition and came out the other side, with their craft intact, their judgment sharper, and their confidence rebuilt on something that doesn't depend on whether the next tool announcement is good news or bad news. Those aren't exceptional people. They're people who found the right integration path and followed it. You now know what that path looks like. What you do with that is yours.